All right. Marissa, run to my office and grab my phone. All right, we're going to jump right in this evening. We are going to meddle tonight. Isaiah chapter 30, let's go there. We're going to talk about music and the effects that it has on you. This is a touchy subject by far. Of all the subjects you can speak about, there's two specifically. The first one is dress. That one there, that's the way to create enemies right there. But luckily for us, the Bible has nothing to say about the way you dress. So you're scot-free on that one. I love sarcasm. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful thing. I'm waiting on it. Come on, sweetie. And then the other one is music. Music is a difficult thing because music is a personal thing. And you like what you like, and I like what I like. And I shouldn't have an opinion about what you like. That was sarcastic as well. Yes, it was. Good job, Brother John. You are on the ball tonight. I am trying to get to my music. All right. We could do several things with this if we wanted to. We will not do that. I just found a group, if you want a good group to listen to, throw this at you. They're called Southern Raised. And, of course, you have to like bluegrass style of music to like them. But they have two songs. One of them is called A Soul. Well, no, that's not it. That's a good one, too. He Came Looking for Me, about the blind man in John chapter 9. And then the Scarlet Cord, that's about Rahab. Both of them, they're three sisters and a brother. And just good, clean music, guitar, banjo, fiddle, and upright bass. Life don't get any better than that. I mean, that's living. All you need is some cornbread and some pinto beans and front porch. And that pretty much does it right there. You're pretty much set. Tickled someone's string there. All right, Isaiah chapter 30. And I want you to notice the first phrase. Isaiah chapter 30, he says this, "Woe to the rebellious children, saith the Lord, that take counsel, but not of me, that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin, that walk to go down into Egypt, and have not asked at my mouth, to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh, and to trust in the shadow of Egypt. Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt your confusion." I probably will not go to many passages which you would link in with music, because here's why. I was raised in church. My dad right now, well, he's not. They don't start till 7. They're a little bit more wicked than we are. But in an hour, my dad will be preaching tonight. And so I know this. The majority of this crowd, you know the verses. And since you know the verses, you have your argument. And so if I go to the verse that says, speaking to yourselves in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, you have an argument for that. So in a little bit of wisdom, we'll avoid that. And we'll approach it from a way that you don't have an argument for. We're going to come at it from a biblical principle standpoint. There are principles that should be in your life. It's not a Bible verse. It's not a Bible verse at all. There isn't any Bible verse, and I'm not going to give you a list of what kind and style of music you should or should not listen to. As I said this morning, you have the Spirit of God inside of you. You know when you're listening to music what spirit is bearing witness with you. And that's what should distinguish for you what style of music and what kind of music, what type of music you like to listen to. Is how it is bearing witness with the spirit that is inside of you. So Isaiah says, woe to the rebellious children. You say, why do you go there? Because This is an area in your life that you can live in rebellion and no one knows about. Because you have your excuses of why you listen to what you listen to. And you have your reasons of why it's okay that you listen to that. And you also have friendships with people that listen to the same style of music that you can listen to, or that you do listen to, so that you feel better about the music you listen to. Now, don't do this for me tonight. I told my wife I was going to be nice. I'll be nice, just don't be quiet. Okay? Get on board, and we'll be nice. Go to 1 Corinthians chapter 10. 1 Corinthians chapter 10. And we're going to go to verse number 31 when you get there. Let me give you a couple statements here. This is from Marilyn Manson. Okay, and I just want to give you the other side of this. This is what these guys know. He said, music is the strongest form of magic. You know what he knows in his music? In his music is there's vile and then there's his. He knows this. He will get to you if you allow that music to penetrate. If you will, people say all the time, and I've heard it said, well, I don't understand why people like whatever style of music. They like that style of music because they exposed themselves to it long enough. And they gained a taste for it. And once you get a taste for it, it's hard to put that train back in the station. Because it's like any addiction you have in your life, you crave that. When I go and work out, I do not listen to Handel's Messiah. I don't. Why? That does not push me to work out. What does it make me want to do? Well, in the mode of working out, it makes me want to sleep. I look at the treadmill and see it as a bed instead of something that I need to exercise on. So I listen to, what do I listen to? I listen to the Clark family when I work out. If you, the Clark family out of New Jersey, Pastor Clark has preached to our teens several times at camp. You want some good Christian music? There's one right there. Stephen Ray Nichols, another pastor, I listen to his family. They have a bunch of CDs. And you know, I do several things. I listen to Andy Leftwich. Andy Leftwich is a bluegrass artist. He has a all-instrumental CD, which will change your life forever. And I listen to that kind of stuff. But you have to be careful what you let in. And listen, Marilyn Manson knows that he can get to you. Bono, the singer from U2, says music can change the world because it can change people. If you listen to a certain style of music, it will change you. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 31. Remember, stay on board here. It says this, verse 31, whether therefore ye eat or drink, what's the next phrase? Do all to the glory of God. Whatsoever ye do, do it to the glory of God. Say, how will this affect the effects of music? Number one, it will affect your spiritual walk. Whatever I do in my life, I'm supposed to do it to the glory of God. It is supposed to be something that is pleasing to Him. And music is an avenue of which I give myself a lot of latitude. Johann Sebastian Bach said this, music is an agreeable harmony for the honor of God and the permissible delights of the soul. Notice he used the word permissible. There are delights that your soul and your spirit will enjoy that are not permissible. Beethoven said this, music is the mediator between the spiritual and the sensual life. And that's why it's dangerous. Because any music this world puts out, ladies and gentlemen, they are not putting it out for the spiritual. And it doesn't matter what kind and style of music you lean toward. You need to be careful of how far you go. There's a ditch on both sides of the road. I don't believe that you can listen to one distinct style. I don't think, Faith Music Mission. Anybody know Faith Music Mission by the raising of hand? There's a couple of you. I can't listen to Faith Music Mission for a very long period of time, and here's why. They have a lot of people that sing, but when they have people that come in to sing, they use the same orchestration and the same music type behind it for every group that comes in there. So they have hundreds of CDs, but it all sounds the same to me. And I like different varieties of music, so I get bored. So I will change it to something else. But when I get bored, I don't turn it over to 104.7 just to change it up. That's the danger in music. Well, that's just too slow and boring, so I'm going to go over here to this. No. What spirit is it ministering to? How is it helping you in your walk with God? Listen, you can listen to something. Instrumental music is instrumental music. Classical music is and we'll get into some detail with the classical music, but classical music is a great music to listen to soothe you and to calm you down. Once again, I'm not going to listen to classical music when I'm, working out, because that tends to, sleeping and laying down and sitting, which I would fit in with a lot of people at the gym that I work out, because I look at some of them and say, you're wasting a lot of money every month because I don't see you doing much at all. An article called Music, It's in Your Head, Changing Your Brain. Dr. Charles Lim is the doctor from Johns Hopkins University. He says this: I think there's enough evidence to say that musical experience, musical exposure, musical training, all of those things change your brain. It allows you to think in a way that you used to not think. It also trains a lot of other cognitive facilities that have nothing to do with music. Your music will affect your spiritual walk, but it secondly will affect your spiritual thoughts. Your thinking ought to line up with the thinking of the Word of God. And the music that you listen to ought to pull you towards God. There's plenty of days that I'm lifting weights on a treadmill that shouting and running and screaming hallelujah is like I'm that close. Why? Because the music that I'm listening to. I don't care who's there around me. I'm not there for them. Some people go to the gym because it's an experience. They get to talk to everybody. Don't talk to me. I'm not there for you. I don't care that you're there. You don't even exist to me. If my wife goes, I have to go find her because that's how locked in I am. I'm not bothered by that. But I put the right music in my ears so that when I'm listening and what I am doing, I'm reminded that I am saved, that I am a child of God. I'll listen to Alexander Scorby when I'm working out. You say, that's not boring? No, because I can work out, and even if I fade off, I know the Word of God is going into my head. I'll listen to that. 2 Corinthians 10:5, Paul says, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. Lots of different styles and kinds and genres of music that do not put in your head the correct thoughts. Because the wording and the lyrics that you're exposing yourself to is pulling you away from God. I grew up in a country setting, so I grew up with people that like trucks and farmers and all that stuff. And so they obviously listen to what? What do they listen to? You bunch of judgers. How dare you judge them? Shouldn't be judging people. No, you automatically know that, don't you? Why? That's just who they are, man. They can't be nothing else. That's just who they are. This just fits with it. That's garbage. Garbage. You listen to what you want to listen to. And in my mind, that's an excuse. Don't get quiet. Don't go quiet. It's an excuse, folks. And I know this is touchy ground. You can't tell me that music draws you close to God. You are lying to yourself and giving into your flesh because your flesh loves it so much. If you were raised in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, there's not a piece of music that the world put out that draws you close to God from any of those eras. None of it. Well, just no. No. You're making excuses for your flesh. Obviously, your flesh loves that music. That's obvious thing. I've had people say to me, I exposed myself to all kinds of dumb music growing up as an idiot, as a teenager. And so I put in myself a taste and a love for the wrong kind of music. That, by the way, is still there. And walking into a store or going anywhere, I know words right off the top of my head of a song that I had listened to when I was 15 to 16 years old. 15 years ago, I got words just like that. Say, where did that come from? The scientists call it this. They call it earworms. Earworms. Isn't that an interesting phrase? Because the song gets in your head and you're not getting it out. And it stays there. And all you're doing is you're just allowing your flesh a little bit of space to keep something that nobody really knows about. But is it drawing you closer to God? And in those times that you're letting your flesh enjoy that, don't you feel close to God? Isn't your relationship with God isn't it just wonderful? Say, well, it doesn't bother me. Then let me say this to you. You must not have much of a relationship with God. Because there is nothing that the world puts out, nothing that'll draw you close to God. And I know this is touchy. This is touchy. Article from CNN. This is your brain on music. Listening to music feels good, but can that translate into psychological benefits? Dr. Levitin is the doctor that did the study. His colleagues published a meta-analysis of 400 studies in the journal Trends in Cognitive Sciences, suggesting that the answer to that question, that yes, it does have psychological benefits. In one study reviewed, researchers studied patients who were about to undergo surgery. Participants were randomly assigned to either listen to music or to take anti-anxiety drugs. Scientists tracked patients' ratings of their own anxiety as well as the levels of the stress hormone cortisol. The results, the patients who listened to the music had less anxiety and lower cortisol than the people who took the drugs. The promise here is that music is arguably less expensive than drugs, and it is easier on the body and doesn't have side effects, but I disagree with the last phrase. I don't know what kind of music they used, but that shows you the power of music. That shows you the power of music. That it's more powerful than the drugs they give you. And you'd get down on someone else for taking drugs for stuff. And you'd read them the riot act. You'd write a book on Facebook. You just let them have it. You just unload the cannon. But don't touch my music. You're just as addicted to the drugs as they are. And every day they're proving this more and more. Listen, these articles are from this year. This is stuff they're digging deeper and finding out. Listen, God knew this stuff all along. And so did the devil, who, by the way, was created as a musical instrument. It will affect your spiritual walk. It'll affect your spiritual thoughts. You cannot walk with God unless you're listening to the right kinds and styles of music. Say, what are they? Is what in your car? Is what is on your phone? Does it glorify God? If I grabbed your iPod tonight, would you be nervous? Rex wouldn't, because he didn't have one. If we jumped in your car tonight, if I took your keys and jumped in your car and turned on the radio, what were we listening to in preparation for coming into church and worshiping the Lord? It's a reality that every day you face. And listen, I know the world is stressful. I know your job stinks. I know you need some way to unwind. But the world's music doesn't unwind you. Do you know what unwinds you on your way home from work? A song like Jesus, Lover of My Soul. Let Me to Thy Bosom Fly. You know what the cares of the day will do when you're listening to that song? It is, choo. The cares of the day will fly away. What does it do? It focuses you on heaven. You'd have less road rage if you had the right kind of music playing. You would. Hallelujah. There was another study, I didn't bring the article with me, but they did it over in the UK. And they just did it here in the past couple months. They gave these guys, they put them all on treadmills, and then they gave them all the same, they gave them different styles of music, different tempo, all of pop music from today. But they gave them different tempos, high, slow, medium, fast. And depending to what style and what rhythm that the song had, depicted how fast they ran, what their heart rate was. The higher the rhythm, the more beat, all that stuff, the faster they were running, the higher their heart rate was. The slower the song, the slower they were going, and slower the heart rate was. And yet we want to argue it as if it doesn't matter. It matters. And it matters because it's messing with your head. You're putting words and lyrics in here, and listen, those words and lyrics are making you think things you ought not think. And it's messing with you. You just don't realize it yet. It'll affect your spiritual walk. It'll affect your spiritual thoughts. But then go back to Isaiah chapter 30. Let's go to verse 29. Thirdly, it'll affect your spirit. Just you. The way that you are around people is affected by the music that you listen to. Verse 29 says, "Ye shall have a song, as in the night when a holy solemnity is kept, and gladness of heart, as when one goeth with a pipe to come into the mountain of the Lord, to the mighty one of Israel." God promised Israel a song in the bad time. And what was that song going to do? It was going to give them gladness of heart. It was going to put them in that holy feeling of worshiping God and bring them closer to God. That's what the song was going to do in their bad times. If you're going through struggles, stress, listen, God's music is the best music you can listen to. Because it'll force you to put words in your head that remind you of really and truly how good you've got it. Songs that you would never sing, words that you would never put out, and a way of thinking that you would never agree to on your own. But when you're sitting there listening to someone else sing words and lyrics, you have to say, they're right. They're right. But only the Lord's music is going to do that for you. Martin Luther said this, the devil, the originator of sorrowful anxieties and restless troubles, flees before the sound of music almost as much as before the word of God. Music is a gift and a grace of God, not an invention of men. Thus it drives out the devil and makes people cheerful. Then one forgets all the wrath, impurity, and other devices. Go to Psalm chapter 42 and then 1 Samuel chapter 16. Psalm chapter 42 and verse number 8 first. Psalm 42, verse 8. The psalmist says this, "Yet the Lord will command his loving kindness in the daytime, and in night his song shall be with me, and my prayer unto the God of my life." Ladies and gentlemen, the music you listen to affects your spirit. It affects the way that you function. It affects the way that you think. It affects the way that you talk. It affects the way that you make decisions. And it does all of it without you even realizing that you're doing that. And the devil knows that. And he is so good. And listen, he's not going to make something. Mark Rogers mentioned this at pastor school this year. He said CCM is a gateway music. And that's the danger of it. You as adults, you might not have a problem with it, but these guys over here have an issue with it. Because CCM music, what it does, is it brings the sound of the world in to their life in a way that is kind of good. You see, because all the CCM artists are artists that couldn't make it generally into rock music or whatever pop music that they wanted to play. So the fallback was Christian music. That's easily provable, just read. And so their fallback is that CCM music, that Christian music. And so they sound very similar and identical and even exchange melodies and even interchange words in songs in groups. So that is a gateway, because what it does is it exposes them to a certain style of music that sounds okay, but then what they're going to do is they're going to compare it to what the world has, and what the world has is 100 times sounding better than what is being done here. So the easy transition is to come over here because it sounds better. Obviously, these are the pros. These are the guys making millions of dollars a year. And so to come to the better is the easy thing to do. So exposing our kids and making sure that our kids are comfortable in church and that they like coming to church and that we're giving them things that they like, all you're doing is basically putting them on a bus and shipping them into the world. Because that's where they're going to end up. And they're going to pretend like they're still worshiping God. No, because when they're here listening to this music, they're thinking about this music. You can't have both. It'll affect your spirit. 1 Samuel chapter 16 is the perfect illustration of how music affects your spirit. Verse 14 says, "But the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord troubled him. Saul's servant said unto him, Behold, now an evil spirit from God troubleth thee. Let our Lord now command thy servants which are before thee to seek out a man who is a cunning player on a harp. And it shall come to pass, when the evil spirit from God is upon thee, that he shall play with his hand, and thou shalt be well. Saul said unto his servants, Provide me now a man that can play well, and bring him to me. Then answered one of the servants and said, Behold, I have seen a son of Jesse the Bethlehemite that is cunning in playing, a valiant man, and a man of war, prudent in matters, and a comely person, and the Lord is with him. Wherefore Saul sent messengers unto Jesse and said, Send me David thy son, which is with the sheep. And Jesse took an ass laden with bread and the bottle of wine and a kid, and sent them by David his son unto Saul. David came to Saul and stood before him, and he loved him greatly. He became his armor bearer. And Saul sent to Jesse, saying, Let David, I pray thee, stand before me, for he hath found favor in my sight. And it came to pass, when the evil spirit from God was upon Saul, that David took an harp and played with his hand. So Saul was refreshed and was well, and the evil spirit departed from him. Several things about this situation that Saul finds himself in. Number one, there's the differences in spirit. In verse 14, it says, But the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord troubled him. The oddity was that the evil spirit was from God. See, how does that happen? You get to the place where you keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing God, and God finally says, Fine. You want to keep doing it your way. You want to keep putting yourself in my place. You want to keep making the decisions, which is exactly what Saul did. Saul put himself in God's place too many times, and God finally said, I'm done. And he backed off. So notice the difference in the spirit. And that is extremely true in the music you listen to. There's different spirits about the music that you listen to. Obviously, everyone's going to be opposed to Marilyn Manson. You see a picture of the guy, and you're opposed. You don't even have to hear him sing. And you're opposed to whatever he's going to say, because you obviously look at it and go, well, that's not going to be very good. Most of us don't paint ourselves that color. I don't paint myself any color at all, but when you look at that, you're already freaked out. So to say what he's going to sing to me, and that's sketchy. Say what he's going to sing to me is going to be good. That's an easy one. But when they dress nice and they look nice, and you see them on TV, and then that's harder to decipher. But the same spirit that is with Marilyn Manson is with the people that you would consider, oh, they're okay. Well, they just sing love songs, Pastor Dave. Yeah, they do. And they sing love songs that include, leaving your spouse, cheating on your spouse, all of those things. And they're okay. And so we let all that in, and then we wonder why we have thoughts in our head. You listen to that stuff long enough, and leaving your spouse is going to seem like a pretty good idea. And it's going to seem like you can pull it off really easy. Why? Because you're constantly listening to them people say, this is great. Listen, I cheated on my wife last night. It was wonderful. Don't go quiet. Don't go quiet. The sad stuff is, when you lose your truck and your dog dies. That stuff's sad. Anybody feels for that guy. That's a horrible day right there. Number 2, in verse 18, notice the description of someone that is close to God. They find David, and listen to their description. They say, number 1, he's a mighty, valiant man. He's a man of war. Every man ought to be ready to fight, only if he has to, but it ought to be there. He's prudent in matters. That means he's discreet, he's sober, he's serious, he's circumspect. He's a comely person. That means he's proper. He's pleasing in appearance. That ought to say something about the music you're listening to. If they dress like a bum, then they are a bum. And the music they're going to sing is going to create bums. And then it says this, the Lord is with him. You better make sure the people playing you your music, that God is with them. I like movie soundtracks. What do I have on here? I'll be honest. I'll be transparent. What do I have on here? I have Pirates 1, 2, 3. I think that's all I have on there. I like to work out to those. Why? Because they jack me through the roof. If I had a sword, I'd kill someone. And that's the perfect example of how music affects you. He's like, if I had a sword right now, everyone in here would be dead. I'd be swinging from thing to thing, just going to town. Why? It's the music going into you and you're listening and you're just ready to go. No wonder Scottish people at war are just absolute maniacs. If I cranked up bagpipes in here for more than 15 minutes, there'd be a fight. And you'd be in the fight going, how did I even get in the fight? You're just ready to go. Why? Because that is in you, and that music controls the spirit within you. And listen, God put the spirit in there. But he left it for you to discern what music controls that spirit. It will affect your spirit. So there's the description of someone close to God. And then notice in verse 23, when the music is played, there's a departing and there's a refreshing. If you want to get rid of the cares of the day and refresh yourself, there's only one kind of music to listen to, and that is godly music. And it's rare, it'd be hard to find. I think on your radio dial, there might be 2 places in town that you could find that. That's about it. 2 places. There ain't another station there that's going to offer that to you. It'll feel good. It'll sound nice to the flesh. It'll bring back memories from the past, probably, if you go to any other stations, which is a danger in and of itself. The past should be in the past. Put your behind in your past. You didn't even catch what I just said. Put it back there. Leave it back there. Don't be listening to stuff that drums up stuff from high school. You were wicked as the devil himself back then, which should say something that you shouldn't be touching that music. But it's just too easy. It makes too much sense. Martin Luther said this, my heart, which is so full of to overflowing, has often been solaced and refreshed by music when sick and weary. And I guarantee you that wasn't AC/DC that he was listening to. It'll affect your spirit. Number 4, it'll affect your sensibility. Isaiah chapter 32, if you would. Isaiah chapter 32, and we're going to go to verses 7 and 8. It'll affect your sensibility. People do stupid things when listening to music. How many dumb things do you hear coming out of concerts? Why? Because people are idiots. People are idiots. They are. And music just emboldens that. It makes them do even dumber things. Isaiah chapter 32, verse 7 says, the instruments also of the churl are evil. He deviseth wicked devices to destroy the poor with lying words, even when the needy speaketh right. But the liberal deviseth liberal things, and by liberal things shall he stand. The music you listen to, the instruments that you're playing, the things that are affecting your life, all they will do is just magnify what is already there. And the music will, listen, you are wicked right now as a Christian, saved 25 years. You're still as wicked as you were the day that you got saved. And exposed to the right kind of music again, you'll prove it. And there's a fine line that you need to walk. Article, music gets in your head, changing your brain again. They said this, advertisers exploit music in many commercials to make you excited about products. As a result, you may associate songs with particular cars, for instance. In my mind, when I read that, I went, and this proves they actually do this. I went to a Chrysler 200 like that. It was a Super Bowl commercial. It starts with, I don't know, lots of quick images of the city of Detroit and the guy talking about Detroit. And it goes to about 30 seconds, and then you get this really catchy beat and this guitar in the background. And I thought, oh, that's a pretty neat little song. Until in the car that's driving down the road, I noticed someone driving the car. And I thought, I know who that is. And that's a gentleman called Eminem. And he's a rapper. And what they did is they told you how sweet and how cool this car is. And listen, Brother Kevin, they weren't shooting for you, okay? Just saying. You praise the Lord. They knew what demographic they were going to get with that. But now, anytime I think of a Chrysler 200, I have a song, and I've never listened to any of his songs. Now I got one of his songs, at least the tune of it, stuck in my head. And listen, that was their point. They wanted you to connect Detroit to Eminem and his music to a car. Mission accomplished. They did it. And they do it all the time. The food you eat, the clothes you wear, without even realizing it. You say, that sounds like a conspiracy. Yes, you got it. If you don't get anything else, that's it. Go home, get in the bunker. Hurry. But listen, to me, that was the perfect evidence that music, images, all that stuff has an effect on you. And when you watch that commercial, you're like, I want that car. Because I can be that cool if I have that car. Oh, I got a big article here. It's called Music Influence on Fashion. I'll take some of you back to the 80s and the 90s here. Us children of the 80s and 90s. Teenagers tend to get their style of dress from musicians that they like. They won't admit it because they're individuals. But you can trace them back to the music that they listen to. As I said, you get a country boy in a truck, he's not cranking up Eminem. He's not doing that. He's listening to a certain style of classical music. And you laugh. Why? Because it goes together. It has to be there. There can't be any other way. The music and the fashion industry have become so intertwined that the recording artists are now using their fame to sell their own fashion line of clothing. Jennifer Lopez, Sean Combs are just a couple entertainers who are cashing in big time on that marriage between the music and the fashion. Back in the day, Run DMC, for all of you that know who that is, and I remember this, his fashion phenomenon was the Adidas that he wore, because his shoe went along with his rap song. And that shoe, those sales skyrocketed, which then led to the sale of their own clothing and such things, hats, shirts, t-shirts, all that kind of stuff. All from him linking up with Adidas and selling a certain shoe, because it linked in with a song that he did. And those sales just went through the roof. Why? It is a medium to your spirit, and it tells you what things to like. And the sad part is we still think we're just individuals making our own decisions, when you're being told what to do. Is it a conspiracy? Yes. Then in 1981, a little TV place came to be that's called MTV. And what that did is that exposed my generation to a lifestyle, and got them to know everything that they could about all these artists and all the things that they did, which all that did was just, they wanted more stuff and more stuff and more stuff. If they're wearing that, I'm wearing that. In the early 1990s, and this, I'm telling you what, I had to laugh when I read this, because I'm like, that's totally how it was. Pop rappers such as the Fresh Prince, Kid and Play, they popularized baseball caps and bright neon-colored clothing. I'm like, I remember that. Crisscross established the fad of wearing clothes backwards. I remember that. Gangster rappers in the early 1980s, they started the style of wearing Dickies pants, plaid shirts, and jackets, wearing Chuck Taylors, Black Raiders baseball caps, Raiders starter jackets. They became a status symbol with incidents of robberies of the jackets reported. Why? Music. Music. Put all that together. And if you wanted to be cool in the 90s, you wore neon. Because that's what the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was wearing. And if you wanted to be cool, that's what you wore. See, we're just sheep that are being led through life, and we're letting something influence us, thinking that I'm making the choices. You're not making the choices. You're letting a medium, there's a good word for it, you're letting a medium into your life, and it's telling you what choices to make. You're letting words into your mind that you'll never get out again. I wish I could go back and make some choices again. That would be very helpful for my walk with God, to be able to go back and make some choices again. But you don't get that. Tommy Hilfiger was one of the most prominent brands in the 1990s. Everybody wanted to wear his stuff. Polo, Calvin Klein, Nautica, DKNY, all of that. But Hilfiger got popular when Snoop Dogg wore a Hilfiger sweatshirt during an appearance of Saturday Night Live. The next day, it sold out of New York City stores. Why? Because he was wearing the sweatshirt. And if he was doing it, that has to be the thing to do. Once again, without even thinking, you're being told what to do. There's also a little company started years and years ago, 40, 50 years ago, called Muzak. You seen those vans around town, Muzak? You know what Muzak is all about? Muzak is all about manipulating you when you shop. And they have it down. I did not bring the article with me. They have it down to an absolute complete science, to the store, to the type of store you're in, to the time of day that you go in. If you go in before work, if you go in during lunch, if you go in after work, the music changes. Why? So you'll buy stuff. And so those stores pay Muzak to pipe the music into their store because it increases sales. And it's a proven tactic. So I like to go in stores and walk out without buying anything. Man, why? I'm just taking a stand. Just taking a stand. That's all. It's because I listened to a song before I went in that told me to take a stand. That's why I did. Lastly tonight, it'll affect your senses. It more than the how you see things, how you think, what you hear, how you perceive life. If you listen to grungy music, your perception of life isn't going to be very good. It's just not. You can't pipe that into your head and just be, I just don't understand why I just have such a negative outlook on life. Oh, I don't know. What are you listening to every day? If you're piping that stuff into your head, then that's what fruit I can't even get out, that you're going to have. University of Wisconsin reported that in a study of 90 people, copy editing a manuscript, accuracy in the group listening to light classical music for 90 minutes increased by 21.3%. By contrast, the skill of those listening to popular commercial radio format improved by only 2.4%. You can't think clearly when you're piping in the world's music. You say, but what style in particular? The world's music in particular. You can't pipe it in. You cannot have a diet of that. Playing an instrument or participating in a music program in school has been shown to have broadly positive effects on learning, motivation, and behavior. Music affects you. So I disagree. I know, it's probably because you listened to a song that said disagree. And you didn't even realize you were listening to it. How does music affect our brain and body? Article says this: music appears to be processed in the right hemisphere of the brain. The way we experience music also affects our nervous system. There are different neurons that respond according to what kind of music is playing. Music can affect hormones, encourage the production of cortisol, which we talked about, testosterone. Music can even trigger a release of endorphins. Beyond the biology and actual responses of your body, there are different responses of the mind as well. You're aware of how you feel when you listen to music, but how do you know that it's actually having any sort of effect on you? Here's how. The most famous experiment related to this is probably the one performed at University of California at Irvine. College students were assigned to 3 different groups. The first group listened to Mozart's sonata for 2 pianos in D major. The second group listened to a relaxation tape. The third group listened to nothing at all. Afterwards, they took a reasoning test, and the results were clear. Those who had listened to Mozart had improved scores. Many musical therapy experts recommend making music a part of your daily life because its effects can improve with time. There is evidence that over time, your language skills, creativity, happiness, and more can improve with regular musical therapy. The evidence is also stacked up strongly in the favor of music's healing power. A positive link has been found in for those suffering from things like autism, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and Tourette's. There are neuroscientists who are working to discover exactly why music has healing powers. After all, it is pretty amazing that it can stimulate certain areas of the brain, speed healing, and decreased anxiety and increase optimism. There are different components to music that can have an effect: pitch, harmony, frequency, melody, and rhythm. All affect the brain in different ways. We know that some of the brain locations are involved in helping to heal and soothe the body as well. Then they said this: the brain can be taught and stimulated to perform better. And it seems that music is the perfect vehicle to do that. So I submit to you that if you can teach your brain that it is an absolute concocted lie on your part that you have to listen to the music that you like. You're not willing to sit down and teach yourself to like another style of music. And you're an absolute hypocrite if you make your kids eat vegetables at the table. But they don't like them. That never worked in my house growing up. Doesn't work in my house now. We had a lesson on liking food today. I love impromptu lessons that just come up out of the blue. Time for a lesson. You listen, let's be honest, you listen to the music you listen to because that's the music you like to listen to. And you don't think about how it affects you. I wonder how much your life would change if you just changed the music that you listen to. A steady diet of the wrong kind of music. Look at it this way. If the music you listen to puts you in a bad mood every day, changing that, how drastically will that affect your life? A person, Martin Luther, I put this in here, I love this phrase, this statement. A person who does not regard music as a marvelous creation of God must be a clodhopper indeed, and does not deserve to be called a human being. He should be permitted to hear nothing but the braying of asses and the grunting of hogs. Check and double check. Your music has an effect on you. And it affects multiple areas in your life. And it affects whether you have a relationship with God. Some of you might have yourself fooled into thinking you have one. It might be there. Because this is an area of life that I can hide from just about everybody. Except maybe my wife, but she's a continual dropping on a rainy day. So I just dismiss that. But is God pleased with what you listen to? Would you be embarrassed if Pastor Saul sat in your car with you? Go to Psalms. Let's finish up in the book of Psalms on a positive note. Positive reinforcement. Do you know the largest book in your Bible is Songs? Isn't that amazing? You think maybe God has a little bit something to say about the music you listen to? For the change offering, what did you sing? Psalms. Psalms 95, let's go there first. Psalm 95, verse 1 says, "O come, let us sing unto the Lord." Did I not tell you 95? I do apologize. 95. "O come, let us sing unto the Lord. Let us make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation. Let us come before his presence with thanksgiving and make a joyful noise unto him with psalms." That's music. Psalms 96, verse 1. "Oh, sing unto the Lord a new song. Sing unto the Lord all the earth. Sing unto the Lord, bless his name. Show forth his salvation from day to day. Declare his glory among the heathen, his wonders among all people. For the Lord is great and greatly to be praised. He is to be feared above all gods." Psalm chapter 98, "O sing unto the Lord a new song, for he hath done marvelous things. His right hand and his holy arm hath gotten him the victory. The Lord hath made known his salvation. His righteousness hath he openly showed in the sight of the heathen. He hath remembered his mercy and his truth toward the house of Israel. All the ends of the earth have seen the salvation of our God. Make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all the earth. Make a loud noise and rejoice and sing praise. Sing unto the Lord with the harp and the voice of a psalm, with the trumpets and the sound of the cornet. Make a joyful noise before the Lord the King. Let the sea roar and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. Let the floods clap their hands. Let the hills be joyful together before the Lord, for he cometh to judge the earth. With righteousness shall he judge the world and the people with equity." Psalms 98 lets you know this: your music doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't have to be boring. It can be exciting. You don't have to sit around listening to chants. No, if that's my option for music, I'm out. I don't want to wear a robe and live with men. I'm out. It's not even an option there. But Psalms 98 tells you this: you can enjoy what you're doing. You can have a good time. Do you know who makes instruments evil and vile? Man does. You had a guitar, wickedness, tonight up here. Wickedness. No, the guitar is not wicked. Steve Julius might be, but the guitar is not. But you can use that guitar to do something that is vile and to sing something that does not praise God at all. But it's not the guitar's fault. Psalms 98 says, hey, you can enjoy what you're doing. Psalms 101, verse 1. "I will sing of mercy and judgment unto thee, O Lord, will I sing. I will behave myself." In what kind of way? Perfect way. "Oh, when wilt thou come unto me? I will walk within my house with a what kind of heart?" Whose house? Your house, not God's house. Your house. We're not going to read verse 3. That's just horrible. We shouldn't go there. "I will set no wicked thing before mine eyes. I hate the work of them that turn aside. It shall not," what? "Cleave to me." There it is. Your music will affect you. Marilyn Manson knows this, that music is the strongest form of magic. And he uses it to seduce people in. That's what he does. The old Willy Wonka with Gene Wilder. You know the part where they're in the chocolate river and they're in the boat and they go into the tunnel and Gene Wilder goes into the really freaky phrase that's enough to scare, well, it does scare your kids. It scares me. Marilyn Manson took that and used it as a lead-in for one of his songs. Why? He's trying to tie things together. If he can get something that you recognize, you might listen to it. And if you listen to it long enough, you'll have a taste for it. And then you'll be telling yourself that you have to listen to it. And I don't like any other kinds of music, and other kinds of music are boring. No, you're just lazy. And you've allowed yourself to create an appetite within you that you enjoy. But it's not pleasing to God in any way, and you're only fooling yourself and telling yourself that it is pleasing to God. Forgetting that you have the Holy Spirit of God inside of you, who's grieved daily by what he has to sit. I mean, think about it this way. You're sitting with your Lord and Savior, and you're making him listen to that filth. As if he wants to hear that. As if he wants to put up with that. And it is affecting your life. It is affecting the way that you talk. It is affecting the way that you think. It is affecting your marriage. All of it. And if you're not careful, Mom and Dad, you'll leave some leeway and some allowance in your own life of music that you want to hold on to. And what you'll do is you'll create a segue for your kids. And if you're not careful, your son or your daughter will listen to Marilyn Manson. And then when they listen to Marilyn Manson, then they'll want to be gothic and paint their nails black and paint their face white and wear all black clothes. And then you'll be freaked out and you'll come screaming and running into Pastor Dave's office and say, I just can't believe. See, because all you're listening to is, the oldies. The oldies is boring to them. But they know this. You're letting the world into your life with the stuff that you like. So why can't they let the world into their life with the stuff that they like? And your argument will be this. Well, their stuff is vile and wicked. Hit the rewind button. Let's go back to the 20s. Let's look forward to the stuff that you say is okay. The moms and the dads in the 20s said that stuff, when they were grandparents, that stuff is wicked and vile, and I can't believe you guys are listening to that stuff. I can't believe they're saying that stuff in those songs. And we leave ourselves every bit of leeway for that. Why? Because it's the oldies, Yeah. And they were sleeping around with each other back then just like they are now. And nothing has changed. And we have ourselves fooled into thinking, it doesn't affect me, Pastor Dave. I got this. You don't got it. It has you. And it's messing with your thinking, and it's messing with your life. Your music, ladies and gentlemen, will affect you. It will affect you. There is no way around it. There is no way to say it's not going to. It will. But you decide how it affects you. You will decide tomorrow. You will decide when you leave out of the parking lot. I wonder how far God actually gets down the road with some of us because of the music that we're listening to. And then you wonder why I struggle all week even trying to keep a relationship with God. You booted him out of the car before you got out of the parking lot by turning on the station. Well, it's my preference. Nope. You are bought with a price. You're not your own. Therefore, glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. Your music will affect you. It will. Guaranteed. The great thing is you choose. You choose what happens. I don't get to do it very much at all. But I used to love being in a house full of construction workers, getting there first, and just cranking godly music. That was my most favorite thing in the whole week. Why? They hated every minute of it. They hated every minute of it. I loved every minute of it. Got cussed at, got yelled at. It's awesome. But I knew this, if they beat me there and they had their music on first, I was going to have a horrible day. Because all that stuff was going to do was bring me back to stupid teenage years where I let stuff into my life. And it does this. If you're honest, sir, ma'am, the life you used to live is like that in an instant. From what? Music. Music. You can avoid it even talking to people that you used to be around. You can avoid that whole thing in memories, but the instant you hear a song, you'll go back to a specific moment, a day, an event, you're there. Why? A song. It's going to have an effect on you. It's having an effect on you, but you choose how it is. Let's bow our heads tonight. Not truly one of those messages where, as a pastor, that you expect people to flood down to the altar because this is kind of a telltale message. And if I go forward, and everyone will know, and that's okay. But if there is an issue in your life, I would ask you this. When you go home tonight. When you get in your car, when you go to work tomorrow, when you get back involved in your life, I'll have Miss Brittany play here 560. The song title is Thy Heart Right with God? That's really the question, because I know this, that the music that you're listening to is affecting you for the negative or for the positive, and the world proves it. Everything I read to you tonight, besides the Bible, was stuff, those are tests, those are things that doctors and universities are doing studies on to prove to you that the music has an effect on you. It's changing you. They're telling you what to buy. They're telling you where to go. So I'd ask you this. This song is Thy Heart Right with God? And that would be my question for you. Is that right in your life? And truly, I hope it is. But if it is, Mom and Dad, make sure you keep it right in your home so that it's right for your kids. Because if you're raising kids in a Christian home, this is a big struggle for them. This is an easy avenue in. The devil, this is the quickest way into their life is through music. The quickest way in, because it's so easy for them to get it. And they're so tempted by it. So be careful in your home. Make sure, Mom, Dad, that your heart is right with God. Christian, I pray that your heart is right with God. I pray that this area of music is right in your life. Let's stand to our feet tonight. Well, thank you for being here. Pray for your pastor. This next week and a half is refreshing for him. He comes back charged fully and ready to go. And ready to serve the Lord and to push forward in the years to come. Pray that you have a wonderful week. Be in your place on Wednesday night. If you would, Brother Kevin, sir, would you dismiss us in a word of prayer?